Okay, we're going to cover a few features of the belief system where the guardians of their truth, using sideways logic and what have you, block out the non-believers and also block out the truth, or anybody who wants to hit their premises with other ideas, okay? The main thing I'm coming across is they go, well, okay, it says you don't know anything about evolution because you haven't been through the curriculum. You know, you don't know our language. And I go, well, yes, I do. I know your language, and I read all your stuff, but I refuse to go through a curriculum that takes me to the position where I'm going to be like you, with a closed mind and not see what's going on. Okay? So the sideways logic, that's always a good one for making a bar. Okay. The fact that they go around and they say, well, it's not, why are you attacking my science? And that's the whole thing, not my science. Why are you attacking my science? You know, they try to compare one science with you know, other science, which is, by the way, sideways logic, if you don't know that. Because physics and mathematics and electronics and, you know, all those, you know, interesting science, you know, nuclear science and all that stuff is, nuclear physics is all a different field completely from this. You know, they always take this thing, why are you attacking my science? Because all sciences are the same. And they go, no, yours is based on a bunch of belief systems that have no logic in it, you know. And then, of course, you got the intense emotions, you know, so you're stupid. You don't know what you know, you're just stupid, you're dumb. You don't know what you're talking about. I go, yes I do. I've studied all your logic and I studied all your reason and I know it better than you do. That's why I'm able to help you with this, okay? And then, of course, there is the peer thing. If you can't get your stuff past the peer group, you can't get the truth interjected into the system. You can't get your idea what the truth is and logic in the system. You can't get it in there. So basically you're blocked out. They have all these guards and bars up, you know, and this is like I like the brown on the outside because it's kind of like stucco, you know. It's got stucco here, like an old-fashioned Western gel. You're kind of stuck in there and you're looking out and you're going, man, I would like to just, you know, ask you a couple of questions, you know, and try to get you to think a little bit outside of your little box, you know. Because what people do is they create a box, a great big box around this one, and man, that box is lead tight. And if you try to get into that box, they'll go after you. The other thing that they do is they say, well, everything we do as for scientists is very logical and has so much reason to it. Logic and reason is the framework around the prison, is the best way of putting it. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to go into some sideways logic with you real quick. I was over on YouTube listening to Ken Miller answer a kid's question in a classroom. And it was actually in a classroom where he teaches this stuff to people. And the kid said, what about these you know, creatures that seem to get smaller? That the old creatures that were there were bigger and now you got smaller creatures on there, like on an island or something. So you got an island. You can look it up on YouTube, you'll find it there. Here's your island, here's the ocean. On the outside, here's a couple of palm trees and what have you. And there's a big creature on here, okay? It's a big creature with a big head and a big appetite, man. It's going to eat everything it can find and all that good stuff, and it poops out, and And so what he said was that what happens on the island is that the big creatures eat up all the food. And so the food supply runs skinny, and then all of a sudden they get skinny and they get smaller. And so in order to survive on this island, they have to get smaller so they won't die off. And while he's saying this stuff, I got it completely figured out what his logic is, and it's like, it's so ridiculous it's hard to even believe that anybody could say something that stupid. This guy's got a PhD. He goes around the country talking about stuff. He wrote books on this. People use his books in classrooms. The guy's an idiot. Okay? Here's my conjecture on it, because nobody really knows what the hell happened, okay? They ate up all the food, they all croaked and died. Because guess what? If you overpopulate something and you're fighting for food and you eat up all the food and you destroy the food that's in the area so nothing reproduces, you kill all the animals that you eat, they can't reproduce. You kill all the plants that you eat, they can't reproduce. So guess what happens? You die. Using their logic, takes you 2 to 3 million years to evolve into something else. So all of a sudden we got a smaller creature on the island now, and they show up. So the big creature with the big bones are all dead, they're all in all over the place, but now we've got small creatures that showed up later, and supposedly the big creature evolved into the small creature because the food supply became skinny. Okay? First of all, when the food supply becomes skinny, it's not 2 or 3 million years. It's, a few weeks, or whatever it is. When they over-multiply, overpopulate a space where they can't live, they eat up all the food supply. This is like Chemistry 101. I learned this the first time I stuck some yeast in a jar. What happens when the food supply goes away? They die. And if they crap all over the place and they have poison everywhere, it helps to poison themselves and they die. So he's saying that they actually lived and they somehow magically converted into smaller creatures so they could live on this island. And I go, sideways logic. So he first starts out with answering the kid and says, instead of answering it direct, here's the question, here's the direct path to the answer, and here's the sideways logic. He comes down here and he goes, well, what's the largest mammal on the face of the earth? And the kid can't answer because he's baffled him. He's trying to baffle him with BS. He goes, well, it's a blue whale. And he goes, the blue whale has never changed size that we know of, and since it's been a blue whale, it's always been the same size. And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell does this have to do with the question? It's called sideways logic. If you can't answer the question directly, you can baffle them with bullshit. That's the common terminology for this. So he comes over here and he bounces up and down, bounces up and down, bounces up and down with this logic, and finally comes up with this dumb answer about the fact that they got smaller because the food supply got less. Well, if you eat up all the food, you die. And so my conjecture is a little creature, came along, floating along one day in the ocean, and they decided, wow, look, it's an empty island. I can come over here and there's some food here now because they're all dead and the carcasses have all created fertilizer, and now we got creatures coming back, and the birds came back, and the birds are back in the island, and some trees are growing or whatever it is. So all of a sudden, nature is reclaiming the island naturally with new creatures. And the other possibility is God could have just popped a creature in there. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like, there's all kinds of premises you can come up with, but nobody was there. Nobody saw this happen. But this guy was so sure with his answer of the blue whale and all this good stuff that they got smaller and so on. I mean, this guy is a nutcase.